and welcome to This is Public Broadcasting. I'm your host, Captain Rutledge. It is May once again, and like every May, we take a look at British TV shows that have aired on PBS member stations. And what better show to look at than one of the most influential British comedy series, Monty Python's Flying Circus. Originally airing on the BBC from 1969 to 1974, and moving to America in 1974, Monty Python's Flying Circus featured the Python team of John Cleese, Graham Chapman, Michael Palin, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, and Terry Gilliam, writing and performing comedy sketches that were a mixture of the mundane, the satirical, and the just plain weird that made a smashing TV series. And of all the sketches performed on the 45 episodes, many people will wholeheartedly confess their favorites. I myself have a few, and I think it's only proper to count down the top 10 comedy sketches from Monty Python's Flying Circus. Keep in mind, these will only be sketches from the original Flying Circus TV series. No sketches from the movies, the German TV show, or the live shows. And without further ado, let's take a look at the top 10 Monty Python's Flying Circus sketches. Number 10.
It's. We present the dull life of a city stockbroker.
Written by Graham Chapman and Eric Idle, this sketch shows a city stockbroker making his way to the office on a typical workday. But what is typical for our main character is pretty bizarre for the viewers. His wife has an affair behind his back, Frankenstein's monster kills people in a bus line, and his bus is caught in a war zone. The sketch is fairly unremarkable, but the main reason it is on this list...
And now for something completely different.
Number 9. The Ministry of Silly Walks. Written by Michael Palin and Terry Jones, we take a visit to the British Ministry of Silly Walks, as a civil servant, played by John Cleese, meets with Mr. Pewdie, played by Michael Palin, who wants to develop his own silly walk but is pretty stuck on development, seeking out a ministry grant to help him out. The sketch serves as a satire of bureaucracy, showing the inefficiency of administration in British government for public funding, but it is John Cleese who makes this sketch so memorable. His sheer physical prowess makes a riot of a gait that would look so stupid if left to another performer. And how he keeps so nonchalant while doing his silly walks adds to the humor.
Coffee?
Yes, please.
Mrs. Two Lumps, would you bring us in 2 coffees, please?
Yes, Mr. Teabag.
The impact of this sketch is pretty amazing. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a family in Detroit set up a sign outside their house claiming their street was under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Silly Walks, encouraging pedestrians to do their own silly walks while going down the street. And this idea was followed by families in Vancouver, British Columbia, and Needham, Massachusetts. You can find videos of these silly walks online and see how people just let loose and had fun during a very serious time.
And now for something completely the same. A man with 3 buttocks. Hello?
Number 8.
Oh, did we? And now for something completely different.
The Dead Parrot. I suppose it is obligatory to include this sketch on a best of Monty Python list. Written by John Cleese and Graham Chapman, this is another Cleese-Palin sketch, with Palin running a pet store where Cleese is registering a complaint about his Norwegian blue parrot.
Hello, what's wrong with it?
I'll tell you what's wrong with it. It's dead, that's what's wrong with it.
Naturally, Palin denies the bird is truly deceased, but Cleese truly hammers in the point to comic effect.
This parrot is no more. It has ceased to be. Bereft of life, it rests in peace. This is an ex-parrot.
Well, I better replace it then.
This sketch started out as an entirely different routine from Cleese's How to Irritate People, with Palin as a car salesman and Graham Chapman as a customer returning a faulty car. On Chapman's insistence, they chose to make it a pet shop in Parrot, before Flying Circus, just to add to the wackiness of the situation. The true humor comes from Palin's excuses for the parrot's lack of movement, and the exact descriptors Cleese uses to define the bird's condition. The sketch has gained considerable public following since it first aired in 1969, even showing up in the eulogy for Graham Chapman's funeral, though the folks from Not the 9 O'Clock News put it best.
In the words of John Cleese, whenever 2 or 3 are gathered together in one place, then they shall perform the parrot sketch.
It is an ex-parrot.
It has ceased to be.
Number 7.
Yes, sir. This way, eh?
The Election Night Special. It seems like the news is always all abuzz whenever there is a big election, and the Pythons displayed that expertly in this sketch. In the Election Night Special sketch, results are read out regarding the winners of the recent elections, with the silly party winning big, and the reporters in the BBC newsroom go completely bananas. This sketch effectively parodies the pandemonium of election coverage in the media, especially the surprise victory of Edward Heath and the Conservative Party during the 1970 general election, which occurred just a few months before the sketch aired on television. Not that the Conservatives should be comparable to the silly party, of course, but rather the silly party shows how in elections, personality often prevails over policy, as the silly party almost always wins over the sensible party, and the extremely silly and slightly silly candidates can't even gain any headway, much like what happened to the Liberal Party in 1970. In short, a pretty good political parody from an episode with a big-nosed Raymond Luxury Yacht.
No, it's spelt Raymond Luxury Yacht, but it's pronounced Throat Wobbler Mangrove.
Number 6.
A man with 9 legs.
He ran away.
Oh, bloody hell.
The Mouse Problem. This sketch by John Cleese and Graham Chapman features a news program called The World Around Us, where Michael Palin and Terry Jones conduct a story about a number of adult men dressing up as mice and being met with hostility by the general public.
Here, I'd stuff sparrows down their throats until the beaks stuck out through the stomach walls.
This sketch parodies traditional British ideals in conflict against the growing countercultural movements of the 1960s, especially with growth in the LGBTQ community after passage of the Sexual Offences Act of 1967. Co-writer Graham Chapman himself was gay and frequented gay clubs around London with his partner David Sherlock. Many portions of the sketch mimic the style of serious TV exposés regarding the secret lives of gay men in the 1960s. In fact, some people today could construe the sketch as a parody of the furry fandom. Clever satire and an excellent sketch.
Clearly, the British public's view is a hostile one. Hostile.
Hostile.
Edam. What? Just because I like cheese doesn't automatically make me a mouse. Number 5. The funniest joke in the world. So, what would the government do if it got hold of the world's most deadly joke? Obviously, use it as a weapon of war. Premiering in the first broadcasted episode of Monty Python's Flying Circus, this sketch is structured much like a TV documentary, chronicling the creation of the world's funniest joke and how anyone who reads or hears it dies of laughter. Once the government gets hold of the joke, they have it translated to German and use it against the Nazis in World War II. This sketch has a more lighthearted take on the Second World War. By the time the episode aired in 1969, World War II movies and TV documentaries were almost ubiquitous in theaters and TV sets across America and the UK. The Pythons likely saw this trend and decided to lampoon the heck out of it as silly as possible. Even the scene of Nazi interrogation is played up for the laughs, and in my mind likely influenced a similar comedy sketch by Carol Burnett.
Cat got his tongue?
And let's not forget the joke itself.
Wenn ist das Lötstück, Jet und Slottemeier. Ja, 200 Öder, die Flipperwelt, Gasput.
Play this clip to any German speaker, and it would just be nonsensical.
That's not funny!
Kinda describes this sketch. Nonsensical, but enjoyable nonetheless. Number 4. The Spanish Inquisition. Written by Palin and Jones.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
Knock it off.
I'll come in again.
Written by Michael Palin and Terry Jones, the Spanish Inquisition sketch features 3 cardinals of the infamous Spanish Inquisition, interrupting regular people after hearing the phrase,
I didn't expect a kind of Spanish Inquisition.
While the real-life Spanish Inquisition was efficient and ruthless, these 3 are bumbling and ineffective at their job, much to everybody's confusion. Essentially, another way to get back at a historically maligned, intolerance-based group whose penchant for violence and torture made for a truly smashing comedy sketch. Much like the Dead Parrot sketch, the Spanish Inquisition lived on long after Flying Circus left the airwaves, especially the phrase, "Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition." Palin and Jones packed in as much silliness as they could, and we the viewers are grateful.
I didn't expect the Spanish Inquisition! Nobody expects the Oh, bugger.
I would put a tax on all people who stand in water.
Number 3.
Whoa!
The fish slapping dance. A lot of the sketches on this list rely on dialogue to get across the jokes. Here, however, is a single 20-second, almost silent sketch that gets the humor across to the audience. This sketch was originally made for the TV special Euroshow 71, but found itself on Flying Circus, likely to pad out the episode runtime, but in the end, stole the show. Michael Palin's performance beautifully complements John Cleese's stoicism during the dance up until the final comedic blow. Short and simple, much like my description. And there's some political fish animation afterwards. Number 2. The Piranha Brothers. Written by John Cleese and Graham Chapman again, this sketch is framed as an episode of news program Ethel the Frog, covering the life and imprisonment of Doug and Dinsdale Piranha, 2 mobsters from East London who went from humble means to controlling the entire criminal underworld of London. The sketch itself is a pastiche of the recent arrests of the real-life London mobsters Reggie and Ronnie Cray, and their organization, The Firm. Both of the Cray twins were convicted in 1969, a year before this sketch aired on the BBC, so it was time once more to have a laugh at their expense. All of the Piranha Brothers' violent acts are played up to a ridiculous level, even their tactics of intimidation are overly preposterous.
Everyone was terrified of Doug. I've seen grown men pull their own heads off rather than see Doug. Even Dinsdale was frightened of Doug. He used sarcasm.
And let's not forget the premiere of Spiny Norman.
Read all about it. Piranha Brothers escape.
Before we get to number 1, a few quick honorable mentions.
Dinsdale.
You haven't asked me about Limburger, sir.
Is it worth it?
Could be.
Okay. Have you got...
Will you shut that bloody dancing up?
Am I right in thinking there's a real frog in here?
Yes, a little one.
What sort of frog?
A dead frog.
Well, don't you even take the bones out?
If we took the bones out, it wouldn't be crunchy, would it?
I hope you're enjoying the show.
Number 1. The Lifeboat and Undertaker sketches. That's right, folks. The top spot features two of the most infamously notorious sketches in all of Monty Python history. The Lifeboat sketch features a group of shipwrecked sailors stuck in a lifeboat and low on provisions, being forced to decide on who to eat first. After objection from the audience, the show picks up with the Undertaker sketch, where the lead Undertaker describes methods of interment in the most sordid of details, until finally looping back around to the cannibalism option. In the end, the audience storms the stage as the credits roll. Leave it to the Pythons to make a grisly subject like cannibalism perfectly hilarious. In other hands, these sketches may not have worked, but thanks to the writing of both John Cleese and Graham Chapman, they turn out horrendously hilarious, so much so you feel almost ashamed to laugh along. Although perfectly funny when viewed out of context, these sketches were originally put in an episode with a running gag of Queen Elizabeth II tuning in during the performance. In honor, the Pythons decided to compile some of their most tasteless sketches for the episode.
Ah yes, did you bring the specimen of your so on and so on?
Yes, I did. There's rather a lot. Good. Do you really need 12 gallons?
No, not really.
Funnily enough, these sketches almost didn't air. The BBC allowed them on the condition that the studio audience protest in the strongest terms against them. At one point, the Undertaker sketch was almost lost for good, thanks to the BBC policy of tape wiping. Thankfully, a copy was discovered in 1985, and the sketch was fully available for the public once more. These sketches were not tasteful, not polite, and not even really intelligent, but that's humor in a nutshell sometimes. It can be subjective, but sometimes the most daring jokes are the most memorable, which is why I have to have these two at the top of my list. So, do you guys have any favorite sketches? Do you think my choices are entirely asinine? In that case, now then, it's time we moved on to the PBS member station Spotlight. We've been going all around the country looking at PBS stations the last few years, and it's time to pick a new station name out of the pretty straw hat. So, the next station spotlight will be Maryland Public TV. Maryland Public Television had its roots with WMPB Baltimore in 1969, the first station of the Maryland Center for Public Broadcasting. 4 more satellite stations followed, and by 1975, a statewide educational network was established. In 1984, the 5 stations came together to form Maryland Public Television. Starting in 1999, MPT began dedicating its afternoon programming block to airing British TV sitcoms and dramas, which it still does to this day. In 2009, the network moved to full digital broadcasting, but September 2015 saw budget cuts to the station. To keep afloat, MPT outsourced its master control operations to Public Media Management. Programming for Maryland Public Television includes local programs such as Chesapeake Collectibles, Maryland Farm and Harvest, Direct Connection, Outdoors Maryland, State Circle, and Artworks, along with nationally broadcast shows like the McLaughlin Group, Motor Week, the National Geography Bee, My Greek Table with Diane Kochilas, To Dine For with Kate Sullivan, and the cooking programs of Barbecue Grill Meister, Stephen Reichlin. Today, Maryland Public Television offers educational programming to the Chesapeake Bay area, along with parts of Western Virginia, Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. If you are in Maryland, you can tune in to Maryland Public Television on these stations, with MPT2 and Create on the .2 channel, PBS Kids on the .3 channel, and NHK World on the .4 channel. Well, thank you to everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, feel free to like, subscribe, and share, ring the bell, follow on Twitter. Also, don't forget to support your local PBS stations. some more programming related to Monty Python's Flying Circus can find its way to your television screens. And until next time, I'm Captain Rutledge. Good day. Lemon curry.
Well, that's all for now, and so until next week,